the auction hook. The hall was filled with noise, a mix of voices, numbers, and flashing lights. Merchants, travelers, and strange beings from across the galaxy had gathered here. It was the great Starship auction, a place where fortunes were won and lost in minutes. Rows of ships stood behind glowing barriers, some bright and polished, others old and broken. People shouted bids, raising their hands or pressing small devices. The auctioneer, a tall man with a booming voice, called out numbers as fast as a laser shot. Excitement was everywhere, but hidden under the noise was something else. Curiosity, danger, and secrets. Among the crowd stood a man, quiet and thoughtful. His name was Marcus. He wasn't rich, he wasn't powerful, but he had saved for years to buy a small ship. All he wanted was freedom. Freedom to travel, freedom to explore the stars. He didn't care for battles or power. He just wanted his own path in the galaxy. As the auction went on, ships were sold one by one. A sleek fighter went for a high price. A transport ship was taken by traders. The crowd cheered and argued, their voices echoing in the metal hall. Marcus waited, searching for something within his reach. Then, at the far end of the stage, a strange ship was brought forward. It was not shiny, not perfect, but dark and silent, almost forgotten. The hull carried scratches and marks of time. Its shape was beautiful yet unusual, like it came from another age. The auctioneer raised his voice, but the crowd grew quiet. No one seemed interested, no one wanted to bid. An old Starship, model unknown. The auctioneer announced, starting price, low enough for anyone brave enough to claim it. The hall stayed silent, eyes turning away, whispers moving through the crowd. Some laughed, some shook their heads, calling it cursed. Not worth it, someone muttered. Haunted. Another whispered with a grin. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Why was no one bidding? Why did the ship seem so alive, even while standing silent? It was as if the shadows around it moved, as if the ship itself was waiting, watching. He couldn't explain why, but his heart pulled him toward it. The auctioneer frowned. No bids? Come now. This is still a working vessel. It only needs a willing hand. Still, the room was quiet. It was strange. At this auction, even broken parts were fought over. Yet here stood a whole starship, ignored by all. Marcus raised his hand. Slowly, unsure of himself. One bid. The auctioneer called, his eyes surprised. Any more? Any second offers? The hall stayed still. The crowd looked at Marcus as if he were a fool, but no one else raised their hand. And just like that, with a single call, the ship was his. The auctioneer banged his gavel. Sold. The crowd murmured, some shaking their heads, some laughing quietly. Marcus ignored them, his eyes fixed on the vessel. He felt uneasy, yet curious. What secret did this ship hold? As he signed the last papers, Marcus walked closer. The starship's surface shimmered faintly under the lights. It wasn't dead metal. It felt like it was breathing. He placed his hand on the cold hull, and for a second he thought he felt warmth. The ship seemed to whisper to him, a sound too soft to understand. His heart beat faster, his throat dry. This is just a ship, he told himself. Only a ship. But deep inside he wasn't sure anymore. Walking inside, Marcus found the air heavy, as if the ship had been waiting for someone. The doors closed behind him with a hiss, sealing him in. The halls were dim, dust floating in the light. Every step echoed like he was walking into another world. He brushed his hand across the panels, and some lights flickered weakly. It was old, but not dead. It was sleeping, waiting. In the silence, Marcus thought he heard a faint sound. Not the creak of metal, not the hum of power, but something else. A whisper, a breath, maybe even footsteps. He stopped, his eyes wide. The ship was supposed to be empty, so why did it feel alive? The auction hall outside was gone, the noise left behind. Now there was only Marcus, the ship, and the mystery that wrapped around it like a shadow. He wanted freedom, he wanted a path of his own. But what he had bought was not just a starship. It was something far greater, something hidden, something waiting to be discovered. And Marcus had no idea that his one small bid had just changed his life forever. The silent ship. Marcus stepped deeper into the ship. His footsteps slow and careful. The air smelled faintly of metal and something older, something almost sweet. The silence pressed against his ears, louder than the noise of the auction hall outside. It felt like entering a forgotten tomb, yet also like stepping into a dream. The corridor stretched ahead, dim lights flickering as if waking from sleep. Panels glowed faintly when his hand brushed them, like the ship recognized his touch. He shivered, pulling his jacket tighter. "This place is empty," he whispered, but the sound of his voice only made the silence heavier. Dust floated in the air, disturbed by his movement. Yet beneath the dust, the walls looked too clean, too smooth, as if someone had been here not long ago. As if the ship was not abandoned at all. Marcus tried to calm his nerves. He had bought ships before, small transports, old freighters, nothing special. But this one was different. He could feel it in his bones. Every step carried weight. Every breath carried doubt. He reached what looked like the command deck. Chairs stood empty, the control panels dark. The wide viewing window showed only the glowing auction hall beyond. But Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that unseen eyes were watching him. He sat in the captain's chair, and for a moment the panels blinked alive. Lights rippled across the console as though welcoming him. His hands trembled, but he reached forward, touching the keys. The system responded, weak, slow, but alive. Suddenly, a soft hum filled the air. The engines stirred faintly in the distance, like a beast waking from a long sleep. Marcus stood quickly, heart racing. He hadn't powered anything, so why did the ship move on its own? He turned sharply, thinking he saw a shadow move at the corner of his eye. Nothing was there. Only empty chairs, silent walls, and the faint hum. But the feeling grew stronger. He was not alone. Marcus moved down another passageway, this one narrower and darker. The lights above flickered in sequence as if guiding him forward. He frowned, whispering to himself, "Ships don't guide people." Yet step by step, the path opened before him. It was as though the vessel wanted him to go somewhere. He reached a sealed door larger than the rest. Strange markings ran across its surface, glowing faintly blue. He had never seen symbols like these before. Not human, not any alien trade language he knew. When he touched the door, it pulsed with warmth. A low sound vibrated through the walls, almost like a voice. It wasn't words, but it carried meaning. "Welcome, chosen one." Marcus stumbled back, his breath sharp. "This isn't right," he muttered. He considered turning back, leaving, maybe even asking for a refund, but his feet stayed rooted to the floor, curiosity stronger than fear. The door slid open with a slow hiss. Inside was a chamber bathed in soft light, not dusty like the rest, but clean and alive. The air was warmer here, almost like a living body's breath. At the center stood a pod, tall and elegant, glowing faintly. Marcus approached, eyes wide. The glass surface showed movement inside. A shadow, a figure. He leaned closer, heart pounding. It was not machinery inside. It was a person, a woman, her form graceful, her hair floating like silver strands. Her skin shimmered faintly, not human but beautiful. Her eyes remained closed, but Marcus felt her presence. She wasn't dead. She wasn't a hologram. She was alive. His throat went dry. He had bought a ship, but inside he had found her. The chamber pulsed with light, the pod glowing brighter. The hum grew louder, filling the air with power. Marcus stumbled back, but his eyes could not leave her. The ship was not empty. The ship was not abandoned. It was her home, her cage, maybe even her body. As Marcus stood frozen, the pod began to open. The glass slid upward with a hiss, releasing warm mist into the air. He raised his hands instinctively, unsure whether to defend himself or welcome her. The figure inside stirred, her chest rising, her eyes still closed. The silence was broken by the sound of her first breath, soft yet powerful. Marcus whispered to himself, "What have I done?" He thought he had bought freedom, a vessel to call his own. But the truth stood before him, awakening, breathing, watching. This was no ordinary ship. This was no ordinary purchase. And Marcus realized, with a mix of fear and wonder, that the silent ship he had claimed was not silent at all. It was alive, and it had chosen him. The unexpected encounter. The mist from the pod spread across the chamber, rolling like soft smoke. Marcus stepped back, his eyes fixed on the figure inside. The woman's body shifted slowly, her chest rising and falling. She was waking up after who knew how long. Her eyes opened, glowing faintly with a light not of this world. They were deep, sharp, yet strangely calm. Marcus froze, his breath caught in his throat. This was no hologram, no trick of light. She was real, alive, standing before him. For a moment, the chamber was silent except for her soft breathing. She stepped out of the pod, her bare feet touching the metal floor without sound. Her movements were graceful, almost too perfect, like flowing water. Marcus tried to speak, but his voice broke. "You? Who are you?" The woman tilted her head, studying him with curiosity. Her gaze felt heavy, as though she could see through him. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but carried power. "You touched the ship. You claimed it. You claimed me." Marcus's heart pounded. "I didn't know anyone was here," he said quickly. "I just bought a ship. That's all. I never meant." But she raised a hand, silencing him. Her eyes glowed brighter for a moment, and suddenly the walls of the chamber lit up. Symbols and lines of light ran across the metal. The entire ship responded to her presence. She was not just a passenger here, she was part of it. Marcus stepped back, struggling to understand. You live here? Are you the pilot? Or?" The woman looked at him again, her face calm but unreadable. "I am bound to this vessel," she said. "Long ago my life and the life of the ship became one. It cannot live without me, and I cannot live without it." The words struck him hard. He thought he had bought an old forgotten starship, but he had bought something much greater, much stranger. He whispered, "Then what does that make me?" Her lips curved into a small, mysterious smile. "You are the one who placed the bid. You are the one who claimed ownership. By the laws that bind my people. You are now my master." Marcus's stomach tightened. No, that can't be right," he said quickly. "I'm no master. I didn't even know you were here. I just wanted a ship, nothing more." But her expression did not change. "The choice was made when you raised your hand. The bond is sealed," she said. Her glowing eyes softened as she added, "And now, your fate and mine are tied together." Marcus felt his mouth go dry. The room seemed smaller, the air heavier. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. After a pause, she said, "Liara." The sound of it was smooth, strange, yet beautiful. "Liara, and you?" she asked. "Marcus," he replied, his voice barely steady. For a moment, there was silence again, but it was not empty. It was full of tension, of unspoken meaning. Liara stepped closer, and Marcus fought the urge to step back. There was no threat in her movement, yet her presence was overwhelming. She looked into his eyes, and he felt like she was looking into his very soul. Suddenly, the ship hummed, louder than before. Panels lit up one by one across the walls. Engines stirred in the distance. The vessel was alive again, fully awake. It was responding not to Marcus, but to her, and yet, through her, it also responded to him. Marcus whispered, "Why me? Why not someone else? Why didn't anyone else bid?" Liara's glowing eyes softened again. Because they knew and they feared. Only one without knowledge could step forward. Only one pure of heart could place the bid without fear. That is why the ship chose you. Her words cut deep, Marcus didn't know if he should feel honored or trapped. He wanted freedom, but instead he had been tied to something far beyond his understanding. He looked at her, then at the walls around them, glowing with alien symbols. "Chosen," he muttered, shaking his head. This wasn't supposed to happen. Liara's expression turned serious. "There is more you must know," she said. Her voice carried weight, like stone and fire together. "You have taken me as your bond, whether you wished it or not. And with me comes danger. Others will come for this ship. Others will come for me. And now, they will come for you." Marcus's blood ran cold. He thought he had bought a starship, but what he had truly bought was a secret, a destiny, and enemies would not stop until they claimed it. As the engines roared faintly and the walls glowed brighter, Marcus looked at Liara, and for the first time he realized the truth. This was not the end of his search for freedom. It was the beginning of a battle for survival. The revelation. The chamber glowed with soft light, the walls alive with symbols Marcus could not read. Liara stood tall, her silver hair flowing like a river of light, her eyes calm but unyielding. Marcus felt small before her, smaller than he ever had in his life. He had come here for freedom, but instead he had found something he did not understand. "Explain," Marcus said, his voice uneven. "What do you mean bonded? What do you mean danger?" Liara stepped closer, her glowing eyes fixed on him. "You did not buy an empty ship," she said softly. "You claimed a living vessel, and with it you claimed me. My spirit and this ship are one. We cannot be separated. And now, by the law of my people, you are bound to both." Marcus's heart raced, his hands trembling. "I didn't ask for this," he said quickly. "I only wanted a ship, just a ship, nothing more." But his words sounded weak even to himself. The truth stood before him, breathing, alive, impossible to deny. Liara tilted her head slightly. "You think you chose the ship, but it is the ship that chose you." Her words cut through the silence like a blade. The vessel waited for one who would not come with greed, one who would not seek power or conquest, one who would act without knowing, pure of intention. "That was you." Marcus shook his head, trying to push away her words. "That doesn't make sense. I'm nobody, just a man who wanted to travel. Why me? Why not someone stronger, smarter, richer?" Her eyes softened, though her expression remained serious. "Because strength alone cannot awaken this bond. Because greed poisons the soul. Because power blinds the heart. Only one who seeks freedom, not control, could claim this ship. That is why you were chosen." Marcus turned away, pacing the chamber. Her words made his chest heavy. He hadn't asked to be special, he hadn't asked to be chosen. He just wanted a chance to live his own life. But now, that life seemed further away than ever. Liara's voice grew quieter, more thoughtful. "There is more you must understand. This ship is not only a vessel, it is a prison. For centuries, enemies have hunted me. They fear what I am, what this bond can become. So they tried to hide me away, but they could not destroy the bond. They could only wait until someone like you came. And now, you have awoken it again." Marcus stopped pacing, his breath shallow. "Enemies, hunters." The words echoed in his mind. "So what happens now?" he asked carefully. "What do they want? Why would they come after me?" Liara's gaze sharpened. "They want me, and through me, the ship. With it, they could rule, they could enslave. The bond makes the vessel stronger than any warship. Faster, sharper, alive in ways no machine can match. In the wrong hands, it could become a weapon of destruction. That is why they will chase you. That is why they will never stop." Marcus felt the weight of her words press against him. He wasn't ready for this. He hadn't asked for any of this. But as he looked at her, standing with calm strength, he knew she wasn't lying. The hum of the ship around them seemed to echo her words. Every light, every panel whispered the same truth. This was no ordinary vessel. "I can't fight them," Marcus admitted. his voice almost breaking. "I'm not a soldier. I'm not a hero. I just wanted to be free to live my own way. How can I fight enemies I don't even know?" Liara stepped closer, her eyes steady. "You are not alone now," she said. "The bond ties us together. Through me, the ship will answer you. Through me, you will not be powerless." Marcus met her gaze, and for the first time he saw something else in her eyes. Not just power, not just mystery, but a quiet sadness. She had been alone for so long, trapped, hunted, waiting, and now he was the one she had been bound to. Whether he wanted it or not, they were tied together. "You mean, I can control the ship?" Marcus asked. Liara shook her head. "Not control, not command. You do not own the ship, and you do not own me. The bond is not about power, it is about trust. Only when we trust each other will the vessel reveal its true strength." Marcus's throat tightened. Trust. It sounded simple, but it felt heavier than anything he had ever known. Silence filled the chamber again. Liara's gaze did not waver. Outside, the auction hall had grown quiet, the crowds moving on. But Marcus knew his life had already shifted into something unknown. He had thought he was buying freedom. Instead, he had gained a burden, a bond, and an enemy he could not see yet. Finally, Marcus nodded slowly, though his voice shook. "If what you say is true, then I don't have a choice, do I?" Liara's expression softened, almost gentle. "There is always a choice, Marcus. But if you run, if you abandon this bond, they will find you, and you will not survive. If you stay, if you accept, then perhaps together we can face them." Her words lingered in the air, heavy but filled with promise. Marcus felt the ship hum again, stronger this time. The walls glowed brighter, the engines pulsing deep below. The vessel was alive, waiting for him to decide. And in that moment, Marcus knew the truth. He had stepped into something far larger than himself. He had not just bought a starship. He had awakened a destiny. And the revelation was clear. His freedom was gone, replaced by a bond that would change everything. The conflict. Marcus stood in the glowing chamber, his fists clenched at his sides. Liara's words echoed inside his head, heavy and unshakable. A bond, enemies, destiny. He had not asked for any of this, yet here it was, pressing down on him like a cage. He stepped back, shaking his head. "No," he whispered to himself, then louder. "No, I won't accept this." Liara's glowing eyes followed him, calm but firm. "You cannot escape it," she said, her voice soft but steady. "The bond is sealed, Marcus. It will not break." Marcus's chest burned with anger. "Don't talk to me about bonds, don't talk about destiny. I never wanted this, never asked for it. I only wanted a ship, just a ship to call my own. Not you. Not this curse. Not your enemies chasing me across the stars." Liara tilted her head, studying him in silence. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes glowed faintly. Marcus turned away, running a hand through his hair. His breath came fast, his chest rising and falling. He felt trapped, cornered, and the walls of the chamber seemed to close in. Finally, he looked at her again, his voice low and harsh. "Maybe I should just walk away. Leave this cursed ship behind and go back to my life. Let someone else deal with you and your hunters." At those words, the lights of the ship flickered. The hum of the engines faltered for a moment. Liara's face tightened, her calm breaking just enough for Marcus to see a flash of pain. "You would abandon me?" she asked quietly. Her voice was calm, but there was a tremor hidden beneath it. Marcus swallowed hard, guilt rising in his chest, but he forced himself to stay firm. "Yes," he said, his voice sharp. "I don't owe you anything, Liara. I don't owe this ship. I don't want to fight your battles. I don't want your enemies. I just want to be free." The silence that followed was heavy. Liara turned her gaze downward for the first time. Her silver hair fell across her face, hiding her expression. When she spoke again, her words were quiet, almost a whisper. Freedom. Yes, I once wanted that too. Marcus froze, his anger softening for a moment. There was something in her voice. Something broken. Something old. But before he could speak, the ship shuddered. The walls vibrated. The hum of the engines turning sharp and loud. Alarms flashed across the panels. Red light filling the chamber. Marcus spun around, his eyes wide. "What's happening?" he shouted. Liara raised her head, her glowing eyes sharp again. "They have found us," she said. "Already?" Marcus's heart raced. "We haven't even left the auction hall." Liara stepped toward the console, her hands moving across glowing symbols Marcus could not understand. The walls showed shifting images. 3 ships approaching, dark and fast. Hunters, their weapons already armed, closing in like predators. Marcus felt his knees weaken. "This can't be real. This can't be happening," he whispered. But it was real. The hunters were here, and they were coming for him now. Liara turned to him, her voice sharp and commanding. "Decide, Marcus. Run with me or stay and die. The ship will not answer to me alone anymore. It will answer to us both. Without your will, without your choice, we are weak. If you reject me now, the hunters will destroy us both." Marcus's breath came fast, his body frozen between fear and disbelief. He wanted to run, he wanted to escape this nightmare. But the truth was right in front of him. If he walked away now, he would not live long enough to regret it. He clenched his fists, his anger turning into something else. A sharp fire in his chest. A desperate will to survive. He stepped toward her, his voice breaking but strong. "Fine. Tell me what to do." Liara's eyes flashed with light. She turned back to the console, the ship humming louder. "Place your hand here," she said, pointing to a glowing mark on the wall. Marcus hesitated, but pressed his palm against it. The panel pulsed under his touch, the glow spreading up his arm. He gasped, his mind flooded with light. He felt the ship not as metal, not as machine, but as a living thing, breathing, pulsing, connected to him. His heart pounded, his thoughts racing. He could feel the hunters outside, their ships moving closer. He could feel Liara beside him, her presence burning bright, and for the first time he understood the truth of her words. The bond was real, terrifying but real. Liara's voice filled his mind, clear and steady. "We are one now, Marcus. Do not fear the hunters. Together we can fight." Outside, the hunters closed in, weapons charged, ready to strike. Inside, Marcus stood frozen in awe and terror. The conflict inside him still burned, but so did something new. A spark, a fire, the will to survive. And though he had fought the bond with all his strength, he knew in this moment he had no choice but to embrace it.